no Sharia law. You filed just now?
So the bill really focuses on foreign laws and ensuring that the Constitution, the United States Constitution and Florida Constitution always reign supreme. We welcome legal migration, but we also want assimilation. And you're not here to come to our country to change our beliefs and our founding principles, but to assimilate and become American and be a part of our country. And if you don't want to do that, then there are other places that are probably better suited for you.
And we're back for another episode of Standpoint. I'm Gabe Groisman. We are here live at the Republican Jewish Coalition Conference in Las Vegas. So you see all this fancy setup here. For those of you that are watching, sitting to my left is my friend Hillary Cassel, state rep of the state of Florida. We're going to talk about her switch. She was a Democrat. We all make mistakes. So was I. I switched parties though when I was 19.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, 21 to independent, and then 25, 26. Someone could check me to Republican. So I've got 20 years on you, but she made the switch and she's really making waves. We're going to talk about some of the bills that she has filed this year, anti-Sharia law. She's also expanding the anti-BDS, anti-boycott, divestment sanctions statute that I was involved in intimately when it was passed originally. So super excited to have Hillary here.
It's so great to be here. This is very impromptu, but I can't say no to this man. So here I am.
Yeah. So listen, so people that are listening should know this was not planned. I saw you walk in. I said, we got to have this interview. We got to do it. We were planning on doing it back in South Florida, but why not, right?
Perfect. What better place to do it, right?
Exactly. So first of all, we're here at the RJC. It's your first time at the RJC conference. Tell us about it. What has the impact been for you?
You know, it's always so great, especially at a time like right now, right, where sometimes we can feel so separate from the world, to just be able to be here with like-minded people and people of the same community, knowing we've had the same struggles and are going through the same things, but at the end of the day have hope and believe that better times are ahead. So it's nice to just be surrounded by like-minded people, all on the same mission to support Jewish causes.
Yeah, it's incredible. Sometimes those of us involved in politics around the country, you feel like you're navigating through like a field full of landmines, and sometimes then you suddenly come to a place like this, which is, by the way, how I feel in Bal Harbour, where I live in that whole area of South Florida. But when you travel, you don't always get that, and here we do. So that's super nice. Let's jump into you made headlines at the end of last year. I think it was December of last year. You're a Democratic state rep from Broward County, which is the only blue county left in the state of Florida, and you did something that was probably not your political consultants weren't excited about it, probably.
They're no longer my political consultants anymore.
You switched over to the Republican Party. Why? What happened?
So, I mean, it started back sometime after October 7th. We were on the floor of the House, and my dear friend, now Congressman Fine, filed a pro-Israel resolution less than 30 days after the war started, after October 7th. And a Democratic colleague filed an Occupied Palestine, pro-Palestine resolution that leadership was unable to stop, which showed to me the clear path that the leadership of the Democratic Party was on, that this type of rhetoric of talking about an apartheid and a genocide, they were supportive of that. Obviously, I am pro-Israel, and when it was my opportunity to debate, I debated my Democratic colleague. And subsequent to that debate, I was placed on an island in the Democratic Party. I was told that I should have sat down, I should have stayed quiet. I'm a woman of Jewish faith, raising a Jewish son. I represent a Jewish community, and it was very important that my constituents in my district felt heard, but it also was important for me to speak for myself and for my family, and to be told by your party to sit down, to be quiet. And it continued after that for some time. And when you are part of a party that you think is a big tent and welcoming, and then it's your issue, and your issue is not an issue that was rally around, which I was like, it's our turn, they're gonna stand with me. And it was the exact opposite. It really just opened my eyes to where I was aligned, and it gave me an opportunity to kind of take a look around at all the other issues that the Democratic Party was supporting, to really do a check-in with myself of, is this where I want to be aligned? I mean, kind of like your story though, I come from a Republican family. My mom was a Republican elected official. I grew up in a conservative household. So my parents for a few years, and I was a registered Republican longer than I was ever a Democrat, but when I became a Democrat, my parents were very confused. So I tell them, I wasn't a rebellious child. They're very happy to have me home in the Republican Party.
So it's interesting that you say that they put you on an island. I have lots of friends who are Democrats, and people, they're always fighting with me that, well, it's really just the fringe that has these positions. But you're saying the party itself, when you stood up for your own community, for the Jewish community, they put you in a box and they told you, right? I mean, that was the actual Democratic Party of Florida.
Yeah, I mean, not only did they put me in a box, they told me I should have sat down and stayed quiet, and that how dare I create dem on dem violence with a colleague. And my response to that was, I didn't file this horrible resolution, and how dare you tell me to sit down and be quiet and not advocate for my community, which is something I would have never told one of my colleagues. But it was also something that subsequent to that experience was always used in a manner against me. There was another issue that I wanted to debate that a Republican colleague had filed that I had worked on all legislative session. I had utilized some language that made the Democratic Party unhappy, and I was told that I should not debate it because I was already on thin ice because of Israel. And that was a constant sort of theme throughout the remainder of time that I stayed a Democrat, that I was on an island. It was clear that I was very separate from the party. I was seen differently now. And then anytime I tried to get any level of success or do something that they didn't like, it was always brought back to Israel and, reminding me that I was on thin ice. And at a certain point in life, you've just got to stand for principle. And I'm in a blue county. Re-election isn't going to be easy. But I didn't do this to get reelected or to have a title. I want to serve my community, and I felt that standing up for that particular issue was doing the best for my community, for myself. And if they choose to send somebody back to Tallahassee, they choose that. But I wasn't going to continue to keep a letter next to my name that I didn't align with, that wasn't authentic to me, that didn't stand for the things that I stood for just so I could win a reelection. So yeah, my political career, most people think you do this and the future looks brighter, and mine's going to be a little bit more challenging, but I'm really okay with that because I did what was right for me.
Yeah, just from my perspective, I don't think it's going to be more challenging. I think it's going to be the opposite because you came off as authentic. It was almost like you made a mistake or it wasn't the party you thought it was. Our listeners might remember we had Jason Pizzo on a few months ago, who was the leader of the Democratic Party, or one of them, and he left the party also. He didn't go Republican, he went MPA, which now I don't even think he's going to run for governor. I think it had to do with trying to find the lane to run for governor. He didn't want to do it in the Democratic lane. So you see it. Look, in this conference, for people who aren't here, I have family that I'm thinking about right now, but also friends who listen who say, you never bring up the woke right, which isn't true. I do bring up the woke right, but maybe I don't bring it up enough. And I think I'm going to do a specific episode just on that coming soon. We heard it a lot in this conference. Right? Almost every speaker spoke about anti-Semitism on the right. It's still on the fringes, but it's growing fast. Outside really of elected politics, with a few exceptions, Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, but you have in the podcast space, in the think tank space, it's growing very fast. And in the state of Florida, and we're talking about actually the legislature, are we seeing a rise of the woke right there, or not really? Is the state of Florida still sort of immune to that?
I think Florida's still immune to that. I mean, I think Florida has established itself as being so friendly to the Jewish community and really supportive of making sure that we feel safe and welcome and protected in this state. And we've been so successful under Governor DeSantis. He has been so supportive of the community and making sure that we are forward thinking and passing legislation that protects us from our students, from our kids in school, all the way up to our college level campuses and adults just wanting to freely raise our families in a pro-Israel, pro-Jewish state. So I'm fortunate that I don't have that experience in Florida. My colleagues are extremely supportive. Many of them have already signed on. We talked about it. I filed a no Sharia law ban in the state of Florida. Many of my colleagues in the Republican caucus have already signed on as co-sponsors of that legislation. So I'm really fortunate, but that's not to say we shouldn't be vigilant, and that's not to say that there aren't voices out there that could have the power to turn people who right now are allies against us. So I think it's really important that the Republican Party doesn't do what the Democratic Party did, which was allow those voices to continue. There has to be, staunch, response to it and condemning it and not condoning it, or not just saying it's one or two. One or two becomes 5, becomes 10, becomes 50. And we as a community have to rally together to make sure those voices get silenced and know that it's not appropriate and that they won't be supportive. We need to stop watching their podcasts. We need to stop giving the views and the ratings that they want. And that's going to be the only way that they realize that messaging is not welcome in the United States of America.
Yeah, I recall Well, I'm glad to hear that. That's my experience as well in Tallahassee. Although the people that are on the boards for the party, we've had problems with in different cities in the state of Florida. But the good news there, I mean, that's obviously bad news. The good news is when it's come to light, the party slammed it quickly, right? So that's really important.
And I think that's where the Democratic Party failed. The Democratic Party allowed that voice to get louder and louder and louder. And I think the Republicans are much better at saying that is not welcome here. We will not allow that, and shutting it down. And I think that's why you see so many people leaving the Democratic Party, because they didn't shut those fringe voices down. And I think we need to make sure we, as Republicans, see that failure in the Democratic Party and don't let it happen to us. Because where do parties fail internally? When they start to turn on each other, when they start to tear each other apart, right? So we've got to make sure that we are unified and that those voices know they don't have a place in this party.
So no Sharia law.
No Sharia law.
It's a bill you filed just now. The session starts in January, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
But these are what they call committee weeks, when people start filing bills. For those who don't know, tell me about the bill. What is it? What does it do? Why'd you file it?
Yeah, so the bill really focuses on foreign laws and ensuring that the Constitution, the United States Constitution and Florida Constitution always reign supreme. We know that there is an influx of foreign law that can be dealt with in individual contracts, family law, real estate purchases, and we want to make sure that we send the message that whether it be Sharia or foreign laws that are contrary to the United States and our founding fathers' intent as to what type of country this was expected to be, those types of foreign laws will not be applicable in the state of Florida.
So even private contracts between parties?
Even private contracts for parties, they're going to be able to contract, but to the extent that that contract comes into question, what the bill will do is will void out certain portions of the contract that ask the United States courts to apply a foreign law or Sharia law in a dispute.
So let's think it through. So when we have Jewish law, right, Talmudic law, and you have disputes in the religious community, some people put in, just like a private arbitration agreement, you know, you're a lawyer too, so right, you put in what law you want to govern, and sometimes it even goes to the Jewish courts, and then you can confirm it, you can confirm it like an arbitration in state court. You're saying the contract will be invalid in state court?
So all of that will be allowed. Where it comes into question and where it would be void is if the terminology of that contract invades someone's constitutionally protected right. So whether it be equal protection, whether it be due process, whether it be a constitutional right that we hold dear in the United States, but if it's a contract on dissolution of property or inheritance, that's going to be allowed. That's going to be allowable under the current law. You would still be able to contract. You would still be able to go through that arbitration process, go through the Jewish courts. However, should there be a provision of the contract that violates your constitutionally protected rights, that is where this bill would not allow the application of that foreign law.
What about the First Amendment? You have the right to contract, right? So if you have the right to enter into a contract, agreeing to a certain body of law to govern it.
You don't have the right to take away someone's constitutionally protected rights in the United States of America and ask our courts to uphold that violation.
Got it. It's interesting. Okay, I want to look up the bill. And see where it's going to fall. Where have you heard opposition for it yet? Where's it coming from? Is it all from CARE?
It's all from CARE. It's all from those groups. And I'm happily meeting with every single one of them because I want you to explain to me why Sharia law, if you believe it's not being applied, which is a lot of what I hear from the other side. Well, Sharia law isn't a thing. You're legislating something that's not in existence.
That's the Democratic playbook.
That's the Democratic playbook. But we know it's here, and we know Sharia law is live in the country and being used. So I don't fall for that, but it's going to be a matter of hearing their perspective of, well, if it's not a problem, then this law should be okay. If it's not a problem and you are abiding by the United States Constitution and the people of your community are protected and you follow our laws and our Constitution, then this law is a nothing law and we're just doing something to be proactive. But that's usually not the response that we receive. But I'm meeting with all my opposition in an effort to have a better understanding of where they're coming from. But, you know, we can look to Europe. We can look to other places in the United States. We can look to Canada, and we know that here in America, we welcome legal migration, but we also want assimilation. And you're not here to come to our country to change our beliefs and our founding principles, but to assimilate and become American and be a part of our country. And if you don't want to do that, then there are other places that are probably better suited for you.
Those hearings are going to be a lot of fun.
They are going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. The 20-year trial lawyer in me loves a good debate.
The Florida channel, which is
Yeah.
the official channel that airs this, is like the what was it, CNBC? No, what's the channel that does the federal hearings? Anyways, that you can go online and watch.
C-SPAN.
C-SPAN.
Yep.
It's like the C-SPAN of the state of
It
Florida.
is.
It's gonna
My
have
mom
more.
watches all the time. I think she's the only viewer.
Maybe.
My-
Maybe that her and people in hospitals.
Yeah.
So tell me about the anti-BDS expansion. For those who don't know, I'm excited, proud to have passed the first anti-BDS city ordinance in the country, and then was involved with getting it passed in the state of Florida. It's been tweaked, which is amazing, because also lawsuits were filed, and you have to adjust things as they go.
Yep.
Because the state of Florida, we've been on solid ground. In Arizona, they had a few challenges that had to do with individuals versus companies and things of that nature. Tell me about the expansion you're going after.
Yeah, so we were really ready for some of those challenges. I was really fortunate to work with a great team who's handled these challenges across the country. So we kind of knew what we were in getting ourselves prepared for. But the beauty is my law has been passed. It has been signed by the governor. So in the state of Florida, we've actually expanded our anti-BDS legislation in a couple places, first and foremost in colleges. Obviously, seeing what we saw after October 7th, the rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses, we wanted to make it very clear that the colleges in Florida were going to be a safe space for Jewish students, that they were going to have the ability to go to their classes and feel safe, but also that our colleges and universities understood that we have a say in where our taxpayer dollars go. And if you are going to prevent let's say professors from Tel Aviv coming over and doing a program, or any attempts to boycott allowing students from Israel to come over, you would lose your taxpayer funding. And if you engaged and supported other countries that had divested or boycotted Israel, that we could remove your taxpayer dollars. So just making sure that colleges and universities in the state of Florida understand that this is a state that supports Israel, supports our Jewish community, and wants to continue that incredible partnership that we share with Israel, and that we aren't going to let our college campuses be a breeding ground for anti-Semitism. And to the extent you attempt to do that, we will remove our tax fund, our dollars from you. We also really focused on the art and cultural grants in the state of Florida. So one of the things that we see is oftentimes individuals will receive dollars from the state and then can utilize those funds to pass out or spread anti-Semitic information. So what we did is said, okay, if you're going to apply for an art and culture grant in the state of Florida, that in the event that you use those dollars to spread any anti-Semitic information, not only will we reclaw and reclaim that money back from you, but you will be prevented from receiving any art grants from the state of Florida for a period of 10 years. So we really just want to protect those spaces that are utilized to spread anti-Semitic content. So art and culture world.
That's incredible. In the arts world, we also saw, I think last year or the year before, something similar passed on DEI and ESG. And I spoke to one of those groups who shall remain nameless. They were coming to me for advice. And they thought I was going to say, well, sure, I'll take it. You pay me money. I'll go speak to people and try. They said, no, all you have to do is not do these things, right? Like you don't have a ticket to brainwash people, and the state doesn't have to pay you to do that, right? It's a state program. The state gets to decide what it does with its money. They weren't very happy with my advice, but they didn't know who they were coming to talk to. So thank you for doing what you're doing. I think the BDS movement, for people that don't realize, it's coming back with a vengeance this year. Most of the people from the BDS movement went into the ESG jobs, the chief diversity officers of these corporations, pouring money into this. And if you saw these corporations that started taking real anti-Israel positions, if you dug just a little bit, that's who you would find, these BDS leaders that were there. Yep. Problem is ESG died. Right, so now they're all coming back. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, and what I was going to say is right now we see this in Miami. There was actually an op-ed recently written calling for, I can't remember, it's City Miami or Miami Beach, calling for them to divest in their Israeli bonds. And it's been brought to my attention because someone said you should write a response op-ed because this actually goes against the exact legislation that we passed. I mean, I don't think people realize the economic relationship between Israel and Florida specifically. The amount our state and the state of Israel engage with one another, and the amount of jobs, the amount of Israelis that have moved to Florida, built businesses. So the economic impact for the state of Florida alone would be detrimental if we were to allow anyone in the state, specifically cities or counties or anybody, to divest from Israel because it seems politically correct, right? And so currently, right now, there's a fight with Mayor Kava, and her son is publicly coming out saying you should divest these dollars. But fortunately, the legislation we passed prevents that.
Yeah, what a horrible story. I
Mhm.
know the mayor, and to see her own son publicly going after her on this, on an issue that I know is important, even to her with very different political persuasion. I know it's important to her. I was with her in Israel also, but I think it's sort of, if you zoom out, kind of tells you a little bit of a story of a certain generation that we're seeing
Mhm.
that's very lost, but gives us an opportunity to I think today, to go out there and be leaders. I saw you when I pulled you away to come here. You were encircled by a bunch of college students, and you were inspiring them with your words and trying to give them a little bit of direction and hope, which I thought was amazing. So Hillary Cassel, thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for sitting with me on a dime. We had a full episode, no prep. We just winged it. Don't tell anybody. But got to go through some incredible issues. And I just want to say, people always say there's no good people in politics. Who would want to run for office today? But luckily, there are people like you out there. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everyone, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, do all the great things to do to support podcasts, and we'll see you next time.